The 2025 OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore continues right here across the network. You saw a live shot of the Hockey Ops department for the OHL as they're manning things when it comes to the picks. We're into round 5. You see the picks coming up on the right side of the screen. Congratulations to all the players who have been chosen. And with the third round pick in the 2009 OHL Priority Selection, the Kitchener Rangers selected Ben Fanelli, who joins me now in studio. Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
What comes to mind when you think of the 2009 OHL draft?
Geez, a lot of unknowns, to be honest. Right? We didn't really know much about the OHL growing up. I was playing so many different sports, and then as that U15 year, U16 year came into existence, it was learning a ton very quickly, and so it was a lot of unknowns, and of course a lot of excitement to do something also special with all your teammates. We were all wondering where we were going to end up, and then subsequently what was going to happen after that. So it was an exciting time, but definitely a lot of unknowns.
This is an event that's obviously progressed over the years in the sense of how it was done, but I mean 2009, not that long ago, and online you're just waiting to see your name called. Take us back. Do you remember the moment when you saw your name pop up?
Yes, I do. Again, it was so much unknown. Where are you going to end up? And then as soon as that happens, you automatically start planning for, okay, when's camp going to be? And then what happens at camp? And I had no idea where things were going to go. Yeah, but it was an exciting time. My family and I were very pleased with where I ended up. Obviously, an incredible organization like the Kitchener Rangers, and an organization I continue to be very, very involved in still today.
And that's sure, you know, the 2009 young Ben Fanelli, becoming such a part of the Kitchener Rangers organization, the Kitchener community, Kitchener-Waterloo community. I'm sure it's probably been a little bit of a whirlwind to think back from that first day walking into the Odd and that first day of camp and meeting people in the organization, meeting a Steve Spott and everyone involved in that organization to today. And I'm sure it's just, been quite a time with the Rangers organization when you've been involved with them.
Totally. I mean, looking back, the relationships that still are so strong today, not only the list of incredible hockey players, but the people that I was lucky, yeah, they were incredible hockey players, but I could go through the list of people, the Landeskog's, the Skinners, the Tobias Reeders, John Gibsons, etc. They were amazing people, and if I needed something today, they would send them a text, they'd respond in minutes. So it's my reflection on my time with the Kitchener Rangers, or when I think about that organization, hockey's a small piece of it. Everything else that I was awarded or experienced through them is what really comes to mind. It's the community, it's family, and I think that'll always be that way.
You come into the league and you're getting advice from older players. So now for these players that are being selected today and over the course of the weekend, as they start to look ahead, you talked about that unknown. What were some of your first impressions? What were some of the things that stood out for you when you first got to the OHL that maybe they're not even aware they're going to have to deal with, or it's going to pop up and be on their radar?
In a lot of the work I do today, working with young athletes, I think we sometimes put value on things that aren't maybe as relevant as they actually turn out to be, being where did I end up, where did I get picked, how many points did I have a year ago or 2 years ago. To bring hopefully peace of mind to young athletes that are listening to this, it really, from what I've seen and the players I've been lucky enough to not only play with but follow, whoever can be in a position, in an environment where they're having the most fun and can be themselves and can make mistakes, right? I spent some time talking with an NHL scout this year, for example, and I asked them, what do you think about mistakes? Is that what you're looking for? And they said, we know mistakes are going to happen, especially at the best level you can ever play this game at. We know they're going to happen. What do they do after? So who is in an environment where they learn that mistakes are going to happen, who am I going to be after that? So it's less about those numbers and where am I at, how many points do I have. It's more how free can I be, how much fun can I have, and how can I continue to develop that will ultimately bring them to the greatest version of themselves as a hockey player and open doors for them.
You touched on it a little bit. For people not aware, what's Ben Fanelli up to these days?
Oh, what is he not up to? Still trying to stay involved in the hockey space from a bit of a different perspective now. I went back to school to do my master's in counseling and psychotherapy. Maybe I should have saw this coming. I didn't know at the time, but I work predominantly with young athletes, professional athletes, etc., which has been incredible. I get to learn every day. So that's one part of my life. Continuing to build out a platform as well to, what I like to say, reinvent how people find support for performance-based conversations, and also general mental health. So those are the two big things in my life. I'm now an uncle too, which is super exciting. My brother lives 5 minutes down the road. My parents live 15 minutes down the road, so moved back closer to family. And to be honest, not much to complain about. Life is pretty good, and I feel very, very fortunate.
You talk about working with those young athletes now. How have young athletes from when you were a young athlete to today changed? And where I think there's no doubt about it, you talk about mental health, those conversations are happening on a much more routine basis. But is that one thing you've really noticed a development from your time coming into the OHL to the players you're working with now?
Yeah, I would say it's I think we all know this. We could agree it's talked about a lot more, right? And sometimes that can be positive. There's more attention put on it, and I think sometimes it can also be a bit of a negative that we find ourselves sometimes looking for problems. And where's the aspect of there's going to be anxiety and uncertainty in life? How do we allow that to coexist with showing up to the rink and sport? And keep in mind, all these young athletes are trying to do something less than 1% of the population are able to do. So it's going to come with its trials and tribulations. And how do you build up the repertoire of skills and build up the capacity to handle that without it slowing you down? So I think the attention on it is terrific. I'm one to believe, and in the work that I'm doing, I think we can make the conversation a little less clinical and more approachable. We often talk about the stigma that can be involved in these conversations, which sometimes mitigates the ability for someone to speak up and say, hey, I could chat with someone, or I could talk about things. So I think allowing for this conversation to happen in the locker room, at someone's billet house, it doesn't have to be clinical. It doesn't always have to be a professional you reach out to. It's just, let's talk about the things that are difficult and find a way to overcome them. So I think, yeah, it's all moving in a great direction, I believe. I think meeting briefly with Brian too with the league, it's awesome who's there in place now. So yeah, I'm excited to see where the game continues to evolve, and I think a lot of people in that space of mental health and hockey are doing incredible work.
How big is it where people can use their time in the OHL as a jumping point for their career? And I'm saying when their career isn't a hockey career at the end of the day, it's something else. Obviously, there's the education program is huge, but even those skills you learn about being a good teammate and dealing with adversity, I'm sure is a big factor. You talked about some of your former teammates, but you mentioned guys who've had success professionally in hockey, but I'm sure there's so many of your teammates, and like yourself, have had success professionally, or maybe around the hockey space or in other aspects. We see doctors, lawyers, you name it, come out of the Ontario Hockey League. I'm sure that's another thing where hockey and the OHL was quite a starting point for another career.
I love that you bring that up. I really do, because Nathan Charletti is one of my favorites to bring up of the prized alumni in the OHL. Played at all the highest levels, played U18, played professionally a little bit, won championships at the Canadian university level. He's a family physician and doing incredible. You ask him, would you change where you're at right now to go play in the NHL or go play pro hockey? And his answer would be no. He's loving where he's at, and he leveraged the lessons and experiences in the OHL to help him get to where he is today. So I think, yeah, again, I really appreciate you bringing that up. I think I would love to celebrate those stories more, because there is a long list of unbelievable alumni that are not playing hockey today, and I would say probably are okay with not playing because they're loving what they're doing today. And I think the OHL played a big role in that.
Well, and to finish that, I remember even talking to Brian Kilray years ago, and he said he loved that fact. It's one thing when his phone would ring and it's someone who came through the Ottawa 67s that's had success in the house, but he loved that fact that he said, a fireman, doctor, you name the profession. He said he loved to see that, and loved to see the fact they've gone on and obviously have a great family, and just as you said, life has just gone on so well, and learning that. And sometimes you find too is the hockey has also allowed sometimes not doors to open, but those connections. Sure. Where knowing, well, hey, you could be a good teammate. You were a leader. Well, that shows that maybe you could be a good manager. You could be a good leader in your profession as well. And I've got to think that's where, and you mentioned Nathan Charletti. Needless to say, I've got a whole lot of time for him. Dr. Char, we call him now, right, from that standpoint. But I'm sure that's the great thing where people, as a 16, 17-year-old, their focus, let's be honest, I want to be in the NHL. Yeah. But realizing, suck it all in, because there's so much you're going to learn from your time in the OHL to use moving forward.
100%. I have that conversation with my clients all the time now, is that often the monster under the bed that, again, inhibits someone to be free and allow mistakes to occur and be their best self is that underlying uncertainty and fear that what happens if this doesn't work? What happens if I'm not an NHL player? I can say personally that was something I had to deal with. And when you do cross that threshold, the freedom, and the weight that lifts off your shoulders, knowing that life doesn't end here. This is part of the journey. Again, we think that conversation is not okay to have. You can't talk about, what would happen if I wasn't a hockey player while I'm on the journey of becoming a professional hockey player. And I always encourage, no, let's have that conversation, because it's unbelievably freeing. And now you can go out in front of 7,000, 8,000 people, depending on the rink you're at in the OHL, and be that 7-year-old that loves hockey and just wants to enjoy it. So again, a really timely conversation that I make sure young athletes are having.
When those young athletes do make it to the OHL and they get on the ice, I want you to take us back to when you were in your rookie season, going into some of those buildings, playing in front of a big crowd. Do you have any memories that kind of stand out, or kind of a welcome to the OHL moment for you?
I do, actually. I think it was my first shift, or one of my first couple shifts, in an exhibition game against the Battalion, and they came to Kitchener. And at first I didn't know who it was, so I'm trying to contain this guy below the goal line, and I look up for a second and I'm like, holy smokes, this is Matt Duchene. Like he's probably not going to be here in a couple weeks. He's probably going to be in the NHL, and of course that's what he did. He made that jump, and so that was surreal. And then I had to come back and be like, hey, stop being a fan here, and actually don't let this guy score. So yeah, that was one of my first experiences as a young hockey player in the OHL.
Not bad with the 3rd overall pick in his NHL draft back 3 months earlier. You're like, wait a minute, I'm lined up against him, and it's got to be quite interesting from that standpoint. Over your time dealing with young athletes, do you sometimes see those light bulb moments where you just say, okay, now they get it? And maybe you've had some conversations, and after a few chats, then you see whether it's what they do on the ice or when you continue on the conversations. Is that the reward for you when you kind of see sometimes the light bulb goes off and like, yeah, they get it, and be proud of that fact? You almost become like the proud, person working alongside them.
Yeah, again, a great question, and my answer would be, and I don't want to get too deep into the psychology philosophy here today. I think the light bulb moment for me is when we talk about the idea that they don't have to do this, and I say, you know what, you don't have to do this whole thing. Train all the time, go on the ice all the time, have the pressure. You don't have to do any of this. And I think it's a really powerful self-reflection, and they realize, oh, no, wow, you know what, I don't have to do this. I'm actually choosing to do this. And then it goes to a place where I can actually do it my way too. Maybe I don't have to obsess so much. I don't have to work so hard. I think a prime example is Ovechkin recently. You see a 6'4", 245-pound man doing incredible things. I think inside of him there's a 10-year-old loving the game. And we have a lot of examples of that I make sure I celebrate with the young athletes I'm able to interact with, because I believe that's the secret sauce there. So yeah, that's the conversation of getting caught up sometimes into why am I doing this, and I have to do this, and I have to do more and more, or I'll fall behind. Allowing them and leading them to a place of peace of mind that you get to do it your way, and you're choosing to do this. You don't have to do this.
Talk about the support systems for these young players and how important they are, because as you guys were talking about the fact that coming into the OHL opens up many doors, not just with hockey, but many careers paths that you could follow. I'm sure for a lot of the parents out there that are listening today, they're thinking, I would love to see my son go on and have so much success in hockey, but if he's going to get a chance now to have a successful career and become a great person, that's really important. And that's that support system around them that stands out to me. How important is it for a player to really have those people around them encouraging them and pushing them in the right direction?
Yeah, I don't even have enough time to list the resources and individuals that empowered me through my time in the OHL. And then the people that I met through the OHL, my coaching at the University of Waterloo, people that have become family friends there. Well, that was driven or initiated through my time with the Kitchener Rangers. Yeah, the list of people is endless. My billet family is my second family. I'm not there every day talking to them every day, but the role they played in my life, Wendy and Dave Brum, they were massive part of my life. And even days when I had off games and I came home and felt bad for myself, Wendy and Dave were there. There was that support. To be honest, Steve Spott, even my head coach, we often think, oh, you're treated as a number. And no, Spotter treated me as a human, and I never felt like I was a number. He was always there to support me. Troy Smith, my assistant coach, Paul Fixter, Mike Van Ryan, all these coaches were huge parts of my life beyond hockey. Then the education side, you talk about the education package. Yes, I did not, it was about the NHL, of course, at 16, 17, 18. And then you get to university and you have a little bit of that financial support. you realize how expensive things are when you're not paying, when parents aren't paying for everything. And that was so blessed and lucky to have that as well. And then step into finishing my undergrad at Laurier. So it was you think the journey ends when you leave the locker room with your OHL team. It definitely doesn't. It continues, and in a way, they're still supporting me today. It's awesome.
When you those names you rhyme off, and I'm sure when your phone, you look down, you get a text message. I'm sure there's an immediate smile when you see a Steve Spott or something like that. Those names, because Spotter's probably got a joke behind it somewhere too. He's gonna a little rib or a little joke somewhere. But I've got to think some of those names coming. You just get that text message. It brings even if something is a rainy day, you see a text like that, you're probably like, I'm smiling right away.
Totally, and funny you bring up that name too, because I just saw him a few weeks ago. I was out visiting Winnipeg to see Scheifele play again, another hockey connection and a great human being. And I'm in the hotel, and there's Steve Spott, and we pick up right where we left off. And he's then there saying, "Hey, how can I support you? How can we, help out with the work you're doing?" And of course, he's now doing that. So yeah, from him, John Gibson, same thing. Texted him the other day. We haven't talked in probably 10 years. And we're right where we left off. The list goes on. So yeah, it's special to have that. I think it's special to have those relationships that are so deep that whether you talk every day or you talk once every 10 years, it's deeper than just, oh yeah, I like this guy. There's a lot of respect there, and I think that's important in life beyond hockey.
We talk a lot about during draft weekend, the team that selects you, it's a starting point to your next part of your hockey journey. But for you, still so many ties to that Kitchener-Waterloo area. Isn't it amazing to think back to that weekend in 2009, you get picked by a team, and here, many years later now, you're still ingrained in that community?
Yes, I think it's a two-way street, right? I really do. I think that door is open to engage with whatever community you're in, right? Windsor, London, Guelph, any team. It's a two-way street. If you want to take that step through the door to build that network and build that connection to the community, you can do it, and you're going to get the love back tenfold. I think, a short story, during my time when I went through my injury, I couldn't go out into the Kitchener-Waterloo community without someone telling me something positive and encouraging and just pushing love into my life. I couldn't. There were times where I tried to go buy a coffee from Tim Hortons. They wouldn't let me pay for it. And they said, "Hey, this is on us. Keep doing your thing. Keep fighting the good fight." It's like that community is what empowered me to end up where I am today. So yeah, it runs deeper than just hockey, the communities in the OHL.
And I've seen over the years now, and of course, many of the organizations have a charitable foundation. Rangers Reach, of course, is very active there in Kitchener. I'm sure you enjoy being able to see that success and how, the Rangers, staff, everybody can work together as like a tight-knit unit. Kitchener-Waterloo is not a small community, but I'm sure it acts like it in a good way.
You nailed it. Yeah, it really does. I think I even love seeing on social media some of the players now as individuals deciding to raise money for something, and when they get a goal or an assist, they're able to donate money to a cause that they care about. I think is awesome. I don't think I could have done that because I don't think I got enough goals and assists, but I look back and think that would have been pretty cool. So it's even the creativity now on how these teams and organizations are continuing to give back is outstanding.
Ben, we appreciate the time. Always great to see you. When I hear your name, it kind of brings a smile because we know the great work you've done around the community, around hockey. So keep it up. Good to see you, and we'll cross paths again soon.
Thank you both so much. I appreciate it.
There's Ben Fanelli joining us in studio. Stay tuned. More to come. Round 5 is in the books. Round 6 coming up, and more to come here on the OHL Priority Selection presented by Real Canadian Superstore.